welcome to Penny's Crafty Creations. Thanks for taking time out every day to hang out, chit chat, craft, and create with me. Today I'm sharing how I make a book journal. I do the simple little journals. I've shared these before. So I just do simple little journals, turning storybooks that are not loved anymore into something that can be loved. So it is a process to do. And it does take a little while to do, so there may be some spots in here where I speed up or pause and do it beforehand. So I go through the thrift stores and I look for books that really need some loving. And then I put my label on the back so that I know that I want to turn this into a journal when I get home. And you can see this one really needs some love. So the first thing I do is I take my knife and I just cut along this seam here to remove any threads. And on the back, you can see the threads are still intact here. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove those just by running that through. And that releases the inner part of the book. Just like that. Now we have that seam there. And all the pages will just open right up for me. So I'm going to go ahead and remove right along that line there with my paper cutter. And my paper cutter can do quite a few sheets at once. Sometimes. So I'm just going to go back and forth just to remove it, and it will move it up for me so it knows that I know I've got it all done. And then just remove any little threading that's left, because sometimes your threads are going to be there. So sometimes your threads are going to still be attached. You can take scissors. And you don't have to use a paper cutter. I just like to. I think it gives it a more even cut. So just take your scissors and remove that. And now what you find is your book is going to be a little bit longer because you have that bend there. And we're going to go ahead and remove the spine the same way. Because we have that paper in there, we're just going to cut down one line. Usually we'll get rid of it completely. So we have that spine in there. What we're going to do next is we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut right along this spine here, right up to the fold. And then we're going to go through and make sure that we cut right up against that. We want to get any loose papers completely gone. Now the small books can take anywhere from about 20 minutes total to about an hour, depending on the size of the book and how much damage you're trying to correct. Like I said, I'm just trying to remove any papers that are on there. You're going to do that to both the front and the back cover completely. So you have that line that you can go by. And just use it as your guide. Cutting along there. And you really want to clean up the edge because you want it to look really nice and polished when you're done removing all this excess. And then just toss that part because you can't really reuse this part. I mean, you can save it and throw it in your fire if you like, so it doesn't go in the garbage. Excuse me. Okay, so we have that part and we have our book pages. So as you'll notice, when you put them together, they're going to be inside there. It's going to be perfect, the amount you have there for your pages. So the next thing you want to do is you're going to look at if there's any tears here and you need to replace the cover. If you need to replace the cover, just take a piece of paper and glue it down over it. and that will completely change that. And then that's a whole nother step. You can fold it down and create a spine here running along there, but we're not going to need to do that with this one. The back cover on these are pretty good. It was just the inside was ripped and needed some loving. And where they are a laminated book, if there's marks on the covers, you can just take a wipe and just gently rub it and it will come out clean. So the next part is to put the paper into our book. And the way I do that is I open up my book like so, take my page that I'm going to have, and I'm going to lay it against my cutter here, right on that line, and that's going to tell me how far in I need to cut. So I need to go right to that edge here with my paper, or I can just cut it at 4 and have it a little bit inward to separate it. So I think what I'm going to do is open this up, and we need to bring our paper right to that edge. So I have a line here at the 11, so I am going to bring it right to that little line that pokes out right at that 11 up here. And I'm using the Elementary paper. Comes in 500 sheets. It's an upcycled paper. It's a really nice paper, and I'm using about 25 sheets. So I'm using about 25 sheets total. I like this paper because it is a softer paper to use for journal making, and it is not a very bright white paper. It's the company is called Elementary, Tree, and I think it goes for anywhere from $7 to $12 a ream, and it comes with, I think it's either 200 or 500 sheets you can get for it. So I really like this paper. So I'm going to take about 5 or 6 sheets, I think, at a time, and you're going to want to cut it down. So depending on how your book is, you can probably get quite a few pages out of here, depending on how deep your page is. So I'm going to attempt to go this way first and see. So we want to cut it so it's at that 11. So we're going to slide our paper over, and we're going to bring it to that 11 on our page here. And that's going to give us that cut, and then I'm going to judge it so it's in just slightly, which is what I wanted, just a slight inward. And I think I might be able to get 2 out of this. So the next part, I might be able to get 4 maybe. So the next part is to take and turn your page, and I need to bring it to the 14. So I'm going to bring it right up to that 14, and I'm butting it up against this part here, not this part. And we might be able to, yeah, we are going to be able to get quite a few pages out of my 25. So we'll be able to get 4 sets, which is good. So I'm going to set these here. Bring this one to the 14. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of the pages, and I will come back. Okay, so my paper is cut, and as you can see, we got quite a lot of paper out of that stack. So the next step is to open up the book, and we have all of our pages. So I'm going to leave the book like that, and then we're going to take our paper. So I want my title page to be first, and then I'm going to go about 10 pages because we have so many papers. So about 10 pages, and then pop that down, grab another page and flip. And then continue this step until the very end of the book is done. So you just continue that step right through to the end of the book. And I will go do that, and I will be right back. Okay, so we have that part all done. All of our pages are together. And we want to line them up, so we're just going to tap the edges onto our table all the way around, because we want to get those papers nice and even for the next step. So you can see the pages themselves will act as like chapter covers. So the next part is to get these babies pinned together. So we're going to grab a couple of pages, and I've got these clips here, and we're just going to clip those down onto our book here, and we're going to set them this way. And I want to have those there because that's going to indicate which side of the pages that I'm going to be punching. So you just grab a couple, and I want to make sure that they're going to fit into my punch when I'm punching. So I need to make sure they're nice and good. Again, pushing that back one down as I'm going so that I know which direction the book is going. And you're just going to clip every single group the same way. And now if you have a cinch, you already know this process, so it'll be a lot easier. If not, you can use a hole punch. You don't necessarily have to buy this tool here or any of the other tools. You can just use a hole punch and create your pages that way. And sometimes I run out of clips, so I have to pause the punch and then come back. And this one's going to be quite a thick notebook, as you can see. Okay, so we've got that part done. The next step is to close in our seal here before we punch on our binding. So what I like to do is I like to take some packing tape and take that seam right here, because I want to close that in, and I'm going to take some packing tape and go onto that seam there, flip it over, and push that packing tape down. This is going to create a seal and help our binding of our book stay, and then you just burnish it down with your bone folder, I think that's what they call it. Take your scissors and trim away that excess tape on the cover here. So again, you're using your scissors as a guide against that. And we're going to do that to both sides here. So I'm just using a tape gun from when we moved. I still have it. I'm looking for an affordable tape dispenser that will do the packing tape, because I do use a lot of packing tape. And I haven't found one that I like, or a color that I like so far. Still looking. I'll find one eventually, I think. So again, I'm butting that up against there just to trim it, and feeling with my thumb to see if I have any excess that needs to be removed. So that's going to help my book stay together a little bit better. So now we're going to turn our book into the spiral. We're going to take our, we have my keeper's punch here, and I You have that little thing here. Gonna butt that right up against there and just punch. And count your punches. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, and I like to go 7 on the small books because it gives you that little gap on the top and the bottom. And you gotta empty your chamber every now and then on this one because it likes to pop off. So because I did it that way, I want to have it match. I'm gonna go the back cover on this one and do the same thing. 2, and you're just moving your holes along into those other ones. So that's 3, that's 4, 5, and 7. And then match them up. You can see the holes line up on there. And then take your book pages and do the same thing. Unhook one side and the other there. And then put them in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think I only did 6. I don't think I did 7. Just gonna line them up and make sure. Yeah, I only did 6. So what I do next is I take these lovely little things. They're just a skewer. And I just push those little pieces onto them. Like so. I'm going to take my back cover, pop that hole right in there, grab that one and pop that in. Do the same thing with the bottom hole. This is going to keep it together until I get finished at the end. So just like that. And it's going to hold that together for me. So pop these off. And again, we're going to do 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you can see they're popping out. It's the only part I'm not liking with the punch is that it pops out while you're trying to go. And I get that you have to change it. I just wish it went down into the handle more so that you could do more work while you're doing it. So all the way down, you want to go 6 with this one. Turn it and get those holes in there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this and we'll come back. Okay, so we have our cover done and our book is together here. We're just going to take and put those on there. So that is all on there. We're going to pop this one out. I just realized to put it in the wrong hole. Okay, so we have that part together. And what I've got is a big ring. And I took this off my planner that was expiring because I got a new one. So I took this off of there and we're going to use it on this one here. I know it's a big ring, but I just think it's really gonna stand out. So I'm gonna take my holes and I'm gonna move them down because I want it to stay together. So put that one in the middle, just like that. And then I'm gonna take that clip off the other one. I'm gonna pop it on here for now so that we can keep our book together. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. Pop one on there as well, only because I want it to stay together while we're working on this and it won't separate. So that's going to keep it nice and tight on there. We can take this one off as we go and then that one will keep the holes on the bottom. So you just take your ring and you're going to pop it right into that hole and twist it and then guide it into that next hole as you go along. Sometimes it takes some wiggling if you're using a previous ring from something that's already been done, like I am here. I may need to chop that end off because it's a little bent. So that end is bent. We just need to get rid of that piece there. And there we go. So now it should go together a little bit better. And it will spiral quickly once you get it going. And keeping this in here is allowing us to keep all those holes lined up. They're not going to move along as we're putting it together with our spiral. Go ahead and remove that one. And I apologize, my neighbors are right outside my window, so you might hear them a little bit. So we want to get it about there. And we're going to take that same tool that I just had and we're going to put a little bend in this here. So grab that and pull that ring. You just want to put a little bend in it to keep it from going into there. So now we need to cut down here. So I'm going to go ahead and create that little mark, or just cut it all off that time. Wasn't expecting it to cut right off. So the same thing, we want to create that little bend to hold our book together. And there we have our book. It's all nice and together. And what I like to do is I like to create an elastic closure on these beauties. So to do that, I'm just going to grab a drink real quick. Okay, to do that, we're going to take this tool here. It's a hole punch. A cropadilly punch, I think is what they call it. And it has those measurements on there, 1/16 and the inch, 3/16. And we want to use the bigger one, so we're going to use this side here. I'm going to flip our book over. And I'm going to go in about 1 inch right there and punch a hole. Flip it over and do the same thing using that as my guide. You want to go in a little bit because you want to be able to have that elastic hold it up here much tighter. And then I have some eyelets here, and we have a blue, and I think I have blue. I do. So we have some blue. So we're just going to push those eyelets right in. You want that pretty side on the outside. I'm going to push them right into that book cover where we just made those holes. So just like that. And you can see them sticking out on the other end. So we're going to take it, and I have my cheat sheet. So I already have my setting on that brown one. And then you have your innie. The innie is going to be on the outside, right in that top there. And then you're going to line that up. And you're going to give it a good squeeze. And it's going to secure that right down into that book for you. And then repeat the step on the bottom as well. Good squeeze. So that gives you your book closure there. And I have some really skinny elastic here. I'm going to push it into this one here. And we're going to do the same thing with the other end. Push that in as well. Pull it tight and drop it down. Grab your book on that end, and you're going to pull this end tight. You want your other end not so tight. And what I like to do is create a knot, like kind of like a slip knot. So you're going to grab it here and create that loop. Grab both those ends with those fingers. Pull them in tight, and then pull both ends really tight. This is going to create that nice tight loop here. And then go ahead and trim it a little bit. And then you have that little knot right like that. So we have our closure, and you can leave it so that this part is on the outside. What I like to do is have that on the inside and the back. So you open it up, and then you take and you bring your elastic around the back. So just like that, around that back. Sometimes your tape will bubble if you don't push down hard enough, which I had a couple here, but they're gone now. And there we have it. We have a Beauty and the Beastie journal that is created from a storybook, and it's the same process for any storybook that you want to create. You can do these in junk journal format, but I am more of a simplistic creator when it comes to journals. I like to have it like this, just plain. I do junk journals, but I prefer doing them like this, having the simple paper. And I will go through and I will stamp this one with a rose on the corners on the facing pages, because the Beast story is about roses, so all these face pages will have that rose. And there we have it. I will come back and share what it looks like when it's finished. Okay, so the book is finished. I'm really happy with how it came out. We have that big beautiful spiral here on the side, and then we have that elastic closure on the back. I do put my label on them. So you pop that elastic off, and then you have the title pages. Then each of the pages has this gorgeous little rose that is opening up, and those are on all the facing pages. And then you have your storybook still intact inside of the journal here, and it all is in order. And then at the very back of this one, I added the Be Yourself with the dress signifying her dress. So that is the finished journal. And I'm really happy with how it came out. That's it. Thanks for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through the process of making this one. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.